objection, the chair may declare a recess at any time. And I recognize myself for the purpose of making an open statement. First of all, let me thank the witnesses who are here today. I spent time with them yesterday or the day before to speak with them about the importance of not only what we're doing here today, but the overall importance to the nation and national security. Today's hearing is with the Department of Defense's National Background Investigative System, and we are going to not only gain a full update of that, but we're going to receive some information that will allow us to get closer to the actual operations and the need of what is happening. A high-quality security clearance process is vital to the security of the United States of America. And as we've seen over the years, when sensitive information gets into wrong hands, the result is far-reaching, compromising both the safety of the country as well as the lives of the citizens. So today's discussion is a very important one. In 2015, the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, announced that it had suffered a significant cyber attack, one that exposed the personnel information of over 1 million people. In fact, over 21 million people who completed forms for security clearance investigations had submitted fingerprints, had their personal information stolen by hackers. The massive breach led to the security clearance process shifting from where it was at OPM to the Department of Defense where it currently resides. However, we know that what happened there is that DOD was taking on an issue that was flawed and had to start from the beginning. They had to start with reforming the federal personnel vetting system and also the mechanics behind that. Hopefully today's hearing will help us understand not just why, but how we can further our confidence that they are headed the right way. DOD now conducts 95% of all background investigations for over 100 agencies, most of the personnel vetting for the entire federal workforce. In 2016, DOD, through its Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, or DCSA, began crafting the idea of a new, innovative personnel vetting information technology system. That system is called National Background Investigative Services System, or NBIS. This product was supposed to be a one-stop shop system covering all phases of personnel vetting: electronic forms, managing investigations, recording decisions, and making sure that became available not only to them, but also the users. However, at this point, after all that planning, the system is only being used for initial application portion of vetting process. In other words, this system is only able to handle the first planned capacity that it was supposed to initiate back in 2016. We're now in 2024. Initially, DOD said the system would be fully operational in 2019. That deadline has long passed. Next, they said the system would be fully up and running at the end of fiscal year 2024. We're about halfway there right now this year. However, recently users were instructed in a large process that was virtually a town hall meeting, were instructed to stop using the system completely for the time being and to revert to the older system, which was supposed to be phased out by fall of this year. Even more troublesome, DOD has not thoroughly planned for the cyber security of both systems, potentially exposing millions to the threat of another attack. Like so many matters this subcommittee addresses, today's discussion is not a partisan one. The gentleman from Maryland and I tend to see virtually the same way national security, the money that is spent by taxpayers that has been appropriated by this Congress, and the need to make sure that he and I continue to work together to see things where it deals with national security similarly. I think my colleagues across the aisle also agree that these issues, ongoing delays with the rollout of an effective and efficient personnel vetting system, are important to every single person, including the security of this great nation. So I think that we'll all agree that today's discussion is not a bureaucratic formality, but a necessity. We must work together, and this is an issue that I discussed with both of our witnesses yesterday. By the way, we took pictures a minute ago. One noted, well, I wonder what the after-meeting picture will look like. So the before meeting picture was most professional. I will tell you, so will the after, because you will be dealt with professionally in this subcommittee, not just by members on my side, but also members on Mr. Mfume's side. So today we're pleased to hear from David Cattler, the Director of the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, and Alyssa Sis, Director of the Defense Capabilities and Management from the GAO, Government Accountability Office. I look forward to working with each one of you today. And our work is not done today, but today is an update, and I want to thank each of you. And I'd like to yield such time as the distinguished gentleman from Maryland would choose. Gentleman, Mr. Mfume is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I clearly echo your comments with respect to the way this committee has operated in this last Congress. Both you and I try to find a common path, and where we disagree or diverge, we recognize that we retain that right, but the decorum of the committee, the purpose of the committee, the findings of the committee, and the oversight of the committee is something we absolutely and totally agree upon. So I am happy to be here at this particular point for this hearing, which, as you said, means a lot to all of us. And when it comes to national security, we try as best we can to speak with one voice. This subcommittee, Mr. Chairman, has been focused laser-like on ensuring that our federal government effectively executes the essential services and the essential functions that our national security demands, while safeguarding at the same time all of the American interests against all of the possible threats. As our nation faces malign actors, we need a talented, very reliable, and trustworthy federal workforce, now actually more than ever before, to protect our fragile democracy. A rigorous and timely personnel vetting system minimizes the risk of unauthorized disclosures and classified information. Unfortunately, the information technology system supporting the national background check process has attracted our attention today precisely because efforts to modernize it have been so inefficient, impeding other efforts to update the clearance process and to fill sensitive positions of trust within our government. As far back as 2008, the federal government formed the Security, Sustainability, and Credentialing Performance Accountability Council, also known as the PAC, to address longstanding problems with timeliness, with effectiveness, and the overall process for granting security clearances. However, as I indicated before, inadequacies persisted, leading to the Government Accounting Office to add the government-wide personnel security clearing process to its high-risk list 6 years ago in 2018. The system had skyrocketing processing times, which created, as we know, a towering backlog of qualified individuals who could not start serving in national security roles because of a backlog. Subsequently, the PAC launched the Trusted Workforce, or TW 2.0 initiative, to fundamentally overhaul the federal personnel vetting system and to take on backlogs and other issues. While that initiative takes noteworthy steps, Mr. Chairman, toward meeting the demand of our national security workforce, the underlying personnel vetting IT system called the National Background Investigation Service, or NBIS, may in fact hinder the success and the successful delivery of TW2Os missing. NBIS was originally created to replace outdated and decades-old legacy office. That office was within personnel management. IT systems in 2019, however, have fallen short in many respects of their laudable mission and fallen short of meeting, quite frankly, their expectations. A 2023 GAO report ordered by this Congress found that after $654 million spent and 8 years of development, along with $835 million spent on maintenance of the system that NBIS is meant to replace, DOD still lacks a reliable schedule and cost estimate for fully developing NBIS. Now that the full deployment of NBIS has blown past, way past, its original projected deadline of 2019, TW 2.0 is left floating in the wind. According to a GAO report in January of this year, of 31 surveyed federal agencies, more than 50% don't trust each other's security clearance, vetting process, or anything else. And that more than 50% feel the need to complete, I should say, on their own, duplicating efforts, which in turn then prolongs the hiring efforts. While the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency has made some improvements and has introduced new NBIS capabilities since taking over that process in 2020, it quite simply still is not enough to be able to retain, attract, and secure high-quality employees. Extensive wait times force talented agency recruits to pursue employment outside of the government when their security clearance stretches for months and sometimes years. And can you really blame them for wanting to wait and to hang around for things to change? On the other side of the coin, inadequate security clearance processes may allow the wrong people to access sensitive government materials, thereby endangering directly or indirectly national security. So today we face a global threat landscape populated by even more dangerous adversaries, as we know. The bottom line is that our government security clearance process cannot keep up with the challenges we face at home and abroad if we do not address shortcomings within basic IT systems. So I want to thank our two witnesses for participating in today's hearing. Like you, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to learning more about how DOD plans to remedy this issue and how we, as members of this subcommittee, can collaborate on efforts needed to put the NBIS project back on track. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back the balance of my time.
Distinguished gentleman yields back his time. I really want to thank both of our witnesses who are here today. Both of them spent a great deal of time with me and the staff yesterday or the day before as we spoke about their preparation, our expectations of performance, and the things that they would be doing. And I think you capsulized the need very well, and I want to thank the gentleman. So I'm pleased to welcome our two witnesses. Mr. Cattler serves as Director of the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. In this role, he was selected because of his demonstrated not just background, but his commitment to the national defense and national security of this great nation, and I believe he was chosen properly. Mr. Cattler is responsible for leading the efforts to protect America's trusted workforce, trusted workspaces, and classified information, and I want to thank him for being here. Ms. Alyssa Siss serves as the Director in the Defense Capabilities and Management Team at the Government Accountability Office. In her role, she oversees reviews on the personnel, security clearance processes, artificial intelligence, intelligence infrastructure, and DOD approach to business transformation. Let me say this, I was impressed with her depth of knowledge, her ability to effectively communicate, and to share that information so that others, including Mr. Cattler, would know what he is getting into. Thank you, each of you, for joining us today. I would now like to ask both of you to stand and rise. So pursuant to Committee Rule 9G, the witnesses will please stand and raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you, God? Let the record reflect that both the witnesses answer the affirmative. I want to thank both of you and ask that you take your seat. We appreciate you being here today. Let me remind the witnesses that we have read your testimony, attempted to be prepared for you, and it will appear in full in the committee hearing record. As I told both of you when we spoke, while we have oral statements of 5 minutes, I'm going to be, as I always am, lax on that and want you to take the time to get things done on your oral presentation, notwithstanding that may change a bit as we get into questions and answers. I need you to make sure that you're passing the information to this committee and did not believe it could be effectively done in 5 minutes. So the distinguished gentleman will have to put up with my review of that, but I'd like for us to learn what they have to say, and I'm delighted that they're here. Just to remind you, please press the button on the microphone in front of you so that it's on and all members can hear you when you speak. The light in front of you will also turn red and green, and I think you'll figure out the rest of it. I now would like to acknowledge and welcome the distinguished Director Kettler for his opening statement. This gentleman is now recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Sessions, Ranking Member Mfume, and distinguished members of the committee. I'm truly honored and grateful for the privilege to testify before you today. I thank you for the urgency and for the attention you're giving to the Trusted Workforce 2.0 policy initiatives and to the National Background Investigation Services, or NBIS, program. I will act with the same urgency to ensure that DCSA is responsible and accountable in both what we say and what we deliver. I appreciate this opportunity as well to testify with Ms. Sizz at this hearing. The Government Accountability Office has conducted several reviews of the NBIS program between both 2021 and 2023, including a recent report on cybersecurity that was published last week and another report assessing technical controls for background investigation systems that will be published later this year in 2024. The GAO identified areas where DCSA and the Department of Defense needed to improve. Even before I became DCSA's director 93 days ago, I closely studied these reports and noted GAO's concerns. These recommendations do guide my focus and my direction as the director of DCSA. I have directed that we renew our focus on these recommendations and that we close the action items presented within them as soon as we can. This includes the recommendations from GAO's cybersecurity report even before it was completed. In early May, after only about a month as director, I hosted Ms. Sizz and several of her colleagues to understand GAO's methodology and analysis, to determine any additional concerns they might have beyond those described in their reports, and frankly, to understand how my agency interacted with GAO. I'm committed to building a culture of accountability at DCSA that was lacking in the program. Simply and directly, the delay in fielding NBIS is unacceptable to everyone. Oversight from GAO and Congress are important parts of this ecosystem of accountability. As we move forward, we will be guided by what is in the best interest of national security and what is in the best interest of the taxpayer. DCSA is the largest security agency in the federal government. Its purpose is to provide integrated security services that protect America's trusted workforce and cleared workspaces. We perform 5 primary missions for the Department of Defense and the broader federal government: personnel security, industrial security, counterintelligence and insider threat, and security training. I'm here today before you to focus on our personnel security mission. DCSA is the federal government's largest investigative services provider, providing vetting services for 95% of the federal government. Last year, DCSA's personnel security mission conducted 2.7 million investigations, or 10,700 investigations per day. We delivered 668,000 adjudicative decisions based on those investigations, and we performed the continuous vetting of over 3.8 million people in the trusted workforce. DCSA is also the primary implementer of the Trusted Workforce 2.0, or TW 2.0 program, which is a personnel vetting reform initiative the White House's Performance Accountability Council, or PAC, launched after the OPM breach in 2016. The NBIS program supports the TW 2.0 reform effort as a federal IT system for end-to-end personnel vetting. When complete, NBIS will deliver robust data security, enhance customer experience, and integrate data access across the whole of government and cleared industry. Some efforts implementing Trusted Workforce 2.0 are going well, but we have faced challenges delivering NBIS to meet the expected timelines for Trusted Workforce 2.0 implementation. TW 2.0 sets an ambitious vision to change the personnel vetting operating model for the federal government, with the goal to detect and mitigate workforce risks and to expedite the entry of new employees into the federal workforce. As the primary investigative service provider and the agency with the task to deliver NBIS, DCSA is an enthusiastic partner and collaborator with DOD stakeholders and PAC members driving this TW 2.0 vision. We have made notable progress with NBIS and without NBIS. For case initiation, we transitioned our customer base of 115 federal agencies and more than 10,000 industry companies to the new entry point via a piece of NBIS called the Electronic Application, or EAP, to submit an investigation request. The EAP interface automates key aspects of the process and streamlines the submission process for the user. And I'm proud to give you the update now that the EAP system is fully operational again effective today and restored fully as the front end for all users. Our continuous vetting services to replace periodic reviews are driving down risk as well in the trusted workforce. Our CV services are being used across the Department of Defense and more than 90 non-DOD entities, with more than 3.8 million personnel enrolled. The program is preparing to expand to a wider federal population this summer. Also, rapid reciprocity decisions increase workforce mobility within and into the Department of Defense. Reciprocity timeliness remains at all-day lows for transfers into the DOD. In 2020, reciprocity transfers took 65 days. I'm proud to say we are now down to only 1 to 3 days today. While we recognize that IT modernization is hard, and in the past, we recognize that IT modernization is hard, and in the past, the NBIS program also made some decisions that made that process harder for ourselves and for the user community. As a result, NBIS faced a series of problems. In addition to the issues raised by the GAO, we found from further internal analysis and other DOD assessments of the NBIS program other key problems across a variety of aspects, including oversight, software development. Sorry, I'm missing a page. Apologies, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member. We feel an urgency to move quickly because we are behind the expected delivery schedule and because the nation needs NBIS to support the personnel vetting mission. However, we also need to move forward at a responsible pace to ensure that we understand the problems and are addressing them. With the help of our partners in the department and the GAO, we developed a recovery plan to fix these problems, including NBIS's cost, its delivery schedule, and its overall performance. An outcome of the recovery plan is initial 18-month capability roadmap for NBIS development. This roadmap was developed with our oversight agencies and other stakeholders. It addresses TW 2.0 technical requirements and secures resource alignment across the DoD. We have multiple cross-agency teams working daily preparing to meet the milestones in this roadmap, engaging with oversight for approval, and with our customers as we move forward with improvements. To be clear, NBIS development will extend beyond the next 18 months, but I'm confident with this path forward to reset the program. By the end of June, DCSA, working with our oversight partners in DoD, is staffing for signature the following documents: an updated capability needs statement and user agreement, requirements governance charter and related process document, and a program capability roadmap for digital transformation that will be vetted with all critical stakeholders. These documents will provide clarity on program requirements to inform the NBIS capability roadmap and an updated lifecycle cost estimate for the program. DCSA has also onboarded new leadership to implement the roadmap coming out of this recovery period. We have not just myself, but also a new NBIS program manager and a new program executive officer for my agency. The NBIS program leadership have a plan in place to restructure and upskill the team to add technical, agile, and acquisition expertise and skills. The NBIS program leadership also has evaluated and aligned a disciplined contracting strategy to support the way forward. By the beginning of October, we will have an updated independent cost estimate to assist with a reliable funding profile to both stabilize and sustain the program. We will continue to engage with customers and partners to ensure that their feedback is incorporated into the design and the configuration of capability development and configuration management as we implement this new capability roadmap. And to aid my strategic guidance and to ensure internal accountability, I have also directed my agency's Inspector General to audit the NBIS program. The DCSA IG will collect all historical documentation to support this assessment with a specific focus on the fiscal years between 2021 and 2024, when my agency took direct responsibility. I will ensure he has the full cooperation of the DCSA workforce and full access to all DCSA records to conduct his investigation. Taken together, this will improve our visibility of the program, allow us to craft lessons learned, and to further enable us to achieve our goals to deliver NBIS. So to conclude, DCSA will move forward with a program that instills confidence, a program that delivers capabilities to uphold this mission without fail. We've embraced collaboration with our oversight partners, the GAO, DOD, PAC members, the mission owners, and I'd add Congress as well. Together, we will take NBIS on a sustainable pathway forward to protect the trusted workforce, to protect the nation, and to ensure the public's trust. I am confident in our path forward, and I do expect to be held accountable. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Mrs., we're delighted that you're here. The gentlewoman's recognized.
Chairman Sessions, Ranking Member Mfume, and members of the subcommittee. I'm pleased to be here today to discuss GAO's work on personnel vetting, and specifically the National Background Investigation Services System, or NBIS for short. As you know, the U.S. government relies on over 4 million personnel with security clearances to provide critical public services. Personnel vetting processes help ensure a trusted federal and contractor workforce, but the government has struggled with managing personnel vetting for decades. In fact, this issue first appeared on GAO's high-risk list in 2005. After some improvements, it came off in 2011, but we had to add it back onto the list, as the chairman noted, in 2018, due in part to challenges with IT systems. My statement today focuses on the progress and challenges with NBIS, which underpins the government's efforts to reform personnel vetting. I will focus my statement on 3 key areas: NBIS's schedule, costs, and cybersecurity, and I'm happy to go into more detail during Q&A. First, with respect to schedule, DOD is years late in delivering a fully functional, modern IT system intended to support all phases of personnel vetting. As you know, cybersecurity incidents in 2015 compromised OPM systems containing data on over 22 million federal employees and contractors. DOD was given the responsibility for a new IT system after this breach and began developing NBIS in late 2016. DOD had originally planned for NBIS to be fully functional in 2019, and then August 2022, and then December 2023. And today, while some capabilities have been deployed, NBIS is still under development. In the meantime, DOD has had to maintain legacy IT systems, including ensuring their cybersecurity. Second, with respect to costs, undertaking a major IT program is expensive. Last year, we reported that DOD had spent over $500 million on developing NBIS and would spend another $700 million through 2027. It had also spent over $800 million to maintain legacy systems while it develops NBIS. These numbers have most certainly increased since the time of our review. With delays in schedule come increased costs. These issues are not new. GAO first sounded the alarm about NBIS in 2021. We reported then that DOD did not have a reliable schedule for the NBIS program and risked missing milestones. In 2023, we relooked at NBIS's schedule and found that it still did not meet our published best practices for a reliable schedule. We recommended to DOD in 2021 that it take steps to improve its schedule. DOD did not. In 2023, we raised this as a matter for congressional consideration to require DOD to do so. We also found that DOD may be unable to accurately project INVIS costs. We suggested Congress also require DOD to follow our best practices for developing a reliable cost estimate. Finally, with respect to cybersecurity, DOD must get this right. We cannot have another breach like we did in 2015. Until INVIS is fully functional, DOD must ensure the cybersecurity of both the new systems it's developing as well as the legacy systems. In a report we released last week, we made 13 recommendations to DOD to enhance cybersecurity of these systems. However, not all is without hope. The government's personnel vetting reform effort, called Trusted Workforce 2.0, has the potential to significantly improve security clearances by offering continuous vetting instead of conducting investigations on employees once every several years. INVIS is the linchpin to this reform effort. While DOD was not always listening, we are encouraged with the recent leadership changes, particularly at the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency, which manages INVIS. As DOD gets INVIS back on track, I can't emphasize enough that it needs to embrace key program management principles, like having a reliable schedule and cost estimate. Without these, the program will continue to suffer setbacks. In summary, INVIS simply cannot fail. Having fully functional and secure IT systems to conduct personnel vetting is paramount to keeping our nation safe. Chairman Sessions, Ranking Member Mfume, and members of the subcommittee, this concludes my prepared remarks, and I'd be happy to address your questions.
Thank you very much. Both witnesses have given us back their time now. I'd like to go first to the distinguished gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Timmons. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. I'm going to jump right into the issue of continuous vetting. Continuous vetting is supposed to be one of the major reforms in federal personnel vetting. Mr. Cattler, is every member of the military, civilian workforce, and contractor with a security clearance currently subject to continuous vetting? And if not, when will this be the case?
Congressman, yes, I believe they are all enrolled currently.
That's good news. Was that, okay, well, didn't expect that answer. I appreciate that.
Could I jump
Yeah,
in
Ms.
real quick?
Sis, please.
So it's true that they're all enrolled at this point, those with security clearances, but it's our understanding that not all of them are undergoing continuous vetting at this time. There's varying degrees of when CV is going to be implemented. So enrolled means that they're ready to undergo vetting. It doesn't necessarily mean they're undergoing the entire continuous vetting process, which is several checks. Some of them may be getting a few checks, some of them may be getting no checks, and some may be getting more. So
Thank you for the clarification. How do you prioritize which individuals will be have additional scrutiny? Mr. Cattler, is that an ongoing process? I mean, if they're enrolled but they're not currently receiving the additional vetting?
Yes, sir. That is both. We're doing it, and it is an ongoing process. And we take a look at how long they have been cleared for. We also take a look at the nature of the positions that they're in when we do that prioritization.
Okay, thank you. The track record of the MBIS system raises concerns about what exactly has been going on at DCSA since it was formed. Mr. Cattler, what kind of review are you planning with respect to personnel vetting, and how can we be sure that no bad actors have gotten through the cracks in past years?
Well, Congressman, I think I'd answer you in two main ways. One is, again, I'm on day 93 in the job, and I've asked for a zero-based review. I had begun that even before I interviewed for the job, and then certainly in the time I've been in. Take a look at what our business processes are and how we're structured. And this is in part why I also said in my statement for the record that we did identify a number of leadership issues about internal accountability, compliance with internal controls, for example, reliability of data that was reported up about the status of the program. But the other thing we do is a tremendous amount of quality control checks on the cases that we do reviews on. We're adjudicating essentially for suitability. Further decisions are then taken by the operational partners, the agencies that use our adjudications, to determine who should actually have access to certain material. And so we take a look at, are we accurate and complete? But we then also have to work with other partners to determine when we've had someone, let's say, that's gone bad, simply, what was the cause? Did we miss something? Was their behavior different? What changed over time to have that break in trust?
And while we're going to be asking questions that will address shortcomings, I do want to say that I'm probably the only person up here that has gone through a security clearance review in the last year and a half. So I will say it was extremely professional. It took a little longer than I would have thought, but they did a very thorough job, and I felt like they did a very good job. I also want to talk briefly about the cost associated with the Trusted Workforce 2.0. This program was initiated in 2018 and was aimed to, quote, better support agencies' missions by reducing the time required to bring new hires on board, enable mobility of the federal workforce, and improving insight into workforce behaviors. However, as made clear by the testimonies today, that's not necessarily the case. It's been 6 years since the launch of the program, and yet we've seen no necessarily positive results. The security clearance system is still extremely backlogged, and as already mentioned, dangerous individuals continue to slip through the cracks. We have to do more. DOD is responsible for the costs associated with the development and continued maintenance of the MBIS system. Between 2017 and 2022, DOD spent approximately $654 million on the development of that system. We're $35 trillion in debt, and we had $1 trillion in debt every 100 days. So, I mean, that seems like an enormous amount of money for a program that it just seems like it's more than we necessarily should need to spend on this. I'd like to hear from both witnesses what their estimates are of how long it takes from the time an agency sponsors somebody for a clearance to the time they get a clearance. Mr. Cattler?
Thank you, Congressman, for both parts of the question. First, let me say on the money and the time here, I completely agree with you. It's unacceptable how we've gotten to where we are, and we need to turn this thing around. I'm trying to move deliberately, not overly slowly, because I think I share the same sense of urgency that you're communicating. We're 8.5 years into a 3-year program. We spent $1.345 billion on a $700 million program that was begun in 2016. That's why I also have a sense of urgency. But at the same time, I recognize that we've got to catch our breath and make sure we get it straight before we move forward. That's why we just did this 90-day review and why we're laying out this better 18-month roadmap that all the stakeholders have contributed to and will agree on. On performance, if I track the fastest 90% of cases, if I take a Tier 3 security clearance or a secret, it now takes 92 days. And a Tier 5 or a top secret clearance takes 188 days. Those are a 7-month improvement for a Tier 5 investigation and a 1-month improvement for a Tier 3 investigation over where we have been in the past at the peak of that backlog. The time is slower than target due to surge in demand. I mean, frankly, we have more applications now, between 10,000 and 11,000 new applications for investigations per week. And that's added up to quite a number of cases that the team has to process.
Thank you. I'm over time. It seems like we're moving in the right direction. I appreciate all your hard work. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. Thank you very much. The gentleman, Mr. Mfume, is recognized for his time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cattler, I want to talk about that $1.3 billion, but before I do that, you indicated that you're going to have an updated cost estimate by October. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Ranking Member, that's correct.
And rather than to read about it, can you make sure that members of the committee get that as soon as it's released?
Yes, sir, I'll do everything I can to get it back to you.
And, you know, you just got in the position, so we just can't nail you to the cross for everything that has gone on. I think what you'll find is members of this committee prepared to extend to you the benefit of the doubt. But that's a lot of money, $1.3 billion, into a program that costs maybe half of that or should have cost half that amount. Can you talk about how far you are into this review, particularly as it relates to redundancies in the spending over the past 3 or 4 years? So I'm talking about contractors, redundancies in contracts that were underperforming, and whether or not those are some of the things that you're looking at.
Again, thank you for your question. This is a very important part of how we've approached this last 90 days. Mm-hmm. We looked at 3 strategic baskets of issues. First, personnel. Mm-hmm. Did we have the right people in the right place with the right qualifications to tackle this work? Was their training up to date? Do they have the right skills? We've had a lot of advice on who else to hire, who else to bring in. For example, user experience experts, people that can help us a little bit more with data architecture. We've sent our people out for Agile training. We've had over 140 receive updated training in Agile methods for software development.